Call to order the Planning Commission meeting for Thursday, February 20th, 2020. Please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Harlicker, please call the roll.
Yes, Commissioner Knobloch.
Here.
Commissioner Heikkila.
Here.
Commissioner Bradley.
Here.
Commissioner Geisler.
Here.
Commissioner Casey.
Here.
Commissioner Schmalke.
Here.
And Chair Schwartz.
Here. Our first order of business this evening is to adopt our agenda.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Geisler, second by Knobloch. Any discussion, changes, corrections, additions? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? The agenda's been adopted. Next, we have minutes, approval of the minutes of our January 16th meeting.
I'll move to approve the agenda. I'm sorry.
Approve the minutes.
Approve the minutes, thank you.
I'll second it.
Motion by Schmalke, second by Casey to approve the minutes from January's meeting. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? And the minutes have been approved. Our first order of business this evening is planning case 19-25, conditional use permit, limited production and processing at 4101 Coon Rapids Boulevard, Aero Technologies. Mr. Harlicker.
Yes, Commissioners and Chair. The applicant has withdrawn their request for a conditional use permit, and staff is recommending that the commission close the public hearing since it has been left open, and accept the applicant's request to withdraw their application.
Thank you. At this time, I will close the public hearing in planning case 19-25. Is there a motion to accept the applicant's withdrawal?
So moved. Second.
Motion by Heikkila, second by Knobloch. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? And that case has been withdrawn. Next order of business is planning case 19-18, a preliminary plat for Pheasant Hollow, 12031 Partridge Street, Northstar Improvements. Mr. Harlicker.
Yes, Chair and Commissioners, the applicant is proposing to subdivide, it's about a 40 acre parcel located south of 121st and north of the Gateway Commercial Development and Highway 10. Most of the development will occur up in the northeast corner here, where Osage is stubbed into the property. You can kind of see from the air photo here, the majority of the site is wetland and floodplain. You got Coon Creek that comes down across the southwest corner here and then follows the property line out. And then there is a wetland pond up in the northwest corner here. This is a proposed plat with Osage being stubbed into the cul-de-sac. Each of the 4 lots will be accessed from Osage. The property is zoned low-density residential, and the area to the south, down in here, is zoned conservancy. The lots, even though the buildable areas are located up here, the lots extend down to the far reaches of the 40 acre. So this area here is lot 1, lot 2, lot 3, and lot 4. This is the boundaries of the 40 acre parcel here. As you can see, there is an existing garage and house that'll be removed as part of the project, and 4 houses are proposed in this area here. The lots do meet the dimensional requirements of the LDR2 zoning district, and the houses, as shown on here, comply with the setback requirements. This is the grading plan. There is quite a bit of wetland and floodplain. This is really the only highland on this parcel. We've got a drainage swale and pond proposed here. This area here with the dashes is the wetland buffer area, and then all this area down here is the wetland. There is floodplain on this property, and the applicant is proposing some floodplain mitigation. On this here, the existing flood boundary is purple, and it kind of flows right across and through here. The property is proposed to be graded so that the flood boundary is pushed out, and it's shown here on this yellow or gold, right in through here. And essentially what they're doing, in kind of a non-engineering terms as I understand it, is they're taking, they're increasing the flood capacity in this area here, and some here, and again some up in here, to make up for the fill that they're bringing in to create the building pads. They've been working with the Coon Creek watershed and the engineering department, city engineering department on this, and this is the concept that they came up with and is what's being proposed. This is really the utility plan. It's pretty straightforward. They're bringing sewer and water in from the stub street, and each house will get its own service off of the cul-de-sac. At this point in time, city staff, primarily from the Parks and Rec and Public Works Department, are in discussions with the applicant about a trail easement across the north boundary of the Plat here. There is a 30-foot wide drainage and utility easement through here, so the possible trail easement, 20-foot wide trail easement, would be on top of that drainage and utility easement. To reflect the ongoing discussions between city staff and the applicant, in the recommendation, part of the staff report, city staff is recommending that condition number 4 be modified to read, park dedication requirement to be met prior to releasing the plat for recording. There's really 2 options available. There's the cash dedication for the 4 lots, or the trail easement across the north boundary of the plat. With that, staff is recommending the proposed preliminary plat for 4 single-family residences with the conditions outlined in the staff report, with the modification to number 4, and then modifying condition number 3 to read the existing garage and house be removed prior to the issuance of the building permit. And with that, I'll answer any questions. I believe the applicants are in the audience to answer questions.
Thank you, Mr. Harlicker.
Yeah.
Commission, any questions for Mr. Harlicker?
So when you talk about the grade,
Just if, there'll be an opportunity for public's comments.
What was the language for the change in condition number 4?
Uh,
Like everything after met.
Yeah, park dedication requirement be met prior to releasing the plat for recording.
Chair Schwartz.
Commissioner Knobloch.
Question for Mr. Harlicker. So can I assume that these 4 homes will not have any basements?
Correct, Commissioner Knobloch. These are all slab-on-grade homes.
Okay. Second question is, one of the recommendations is a requirement that 1 street tree is required per lot, and a minimum of 2.5 inches wide each. Does the city find that to be viable with the environment on the edge of this wetland? Trees of that size will survive or be able to flourish in this environment?
Yes, that should not be an issue.
Okay. That's it?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Geisler.
Mr. Harlicker, when you mentioned the trail easement would be on top of the drainage easement, do you mean within, or it wouldn't become a 50-foot easement, it'd just be the 20 would be contained within the 30?
That's correct,
Okay.
Commissioner Geisler.
Just want to make sure I understood that. And then as far as the actual lot development, is the wetland delineated line where the turf would stop or turf development of the house itself? How far into those wedge lots are they going?
The wetland buffer is 25 feet in from the edge of the wetland. Engineering department does require that those areas be left natural
Okay.
and that they'd be signed wetland buffer area.
So that heavy dash line would be the demarcation where lot development would stop for
I
turf.
believe that the heavy dash line there is where the erosion control will be
Okay.
installed.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Casey.
So, Mr. Harlicker, that 20-foot trail easement, is that just gonna, that's not gonna be paved or anything? And is it gonna correspond to what was a driveway or essentially the entrance into that house and garage back there?
Yeah, Commissioner Casey, at this point, there are no plans. You know, this is just looking ahead to the
Above
future.
there.
The future trail development along there would be a separate item that would be
Because it doesn't.
part of a Parks and Recreation and Public Works project. So at this time, they're just looking at getting that trail easement that would allow future trail construction.
Okay, because there's nothing really east of there that would correspond to a trail, or really west of there. It's just
Yeah,
that one section.
They are looking at, essentially, the trail would go, would come from over here, across through here, wrap around this wetland, then extend across over to 121st at this point.
Okay. So in the
And
future,
eventually, what it would be, it would connect Main Street with Lions Park.
okay. And then at that point, it could or could not be paved and all that, and it really accessible.
Yeah, it depends what city standards are at that time. At this point, trails are paved.
Yeah. And I have one other question about the entrance that is now the extension of Partridge, that,
Yep.
dirt road, is that gonna be, I noticed it was gonna be covered with turf and reseeded and whatever. Is that ever, who retains the ownership of that? Is it ever gonna be a
This-
house?
Commissioner Casey, the city will retain ownership
Okay, and it's not
of the
really.
Partridge Street right-of-way.
Okay, it's not really big enough for a lot,
No,
yeah, it didn't
it's too,
appear
I
to
think it's
be.
30 feet wide.
Yeah,
So it's like half a right-of-way.
okay, so the city retains that, and then, when you talk about the signage that's going in at the far edge of the wetland in the buffer area there, is that one for each of the 4 lots?
I'm not sure as the distance between signs, but certainly at least one per lot.
Okay, just a warning,
Yep.
so to speak.
just to identify where the edge of that buffer is.
Yeah. Okay, those are my questions. Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Harlicker?
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Heickel?
Hi, I'm trying to understand or figure out how far back from each house they would be able to claim as property for the house and add sodding, or how far back does that go? The lots are 60 by 60.
On here, you see where this kind of dashed area here?
Yes.
That is the buffer area. Realistically, this is floodplain, reclaimed floodplain area, so the backyard will go back, somewhere back in here. Could they sod it? They could, but they just couldn't put any structures or anything back in there. Realistically, they'll probably, I personally wouldn't sod the whole thing. I'd
No,
do
we'd
the
go
area
to
around the house.
To like that first line, and we can see right in that area.
Pardon?
Right to where we can see where that first line is, behind the houses? Is that what
You
you're?
mean, right, those
Yeah.
are contours?
Yes.
So, yeah, they could go back, especially on these lots in here, they could go back kind of as far as they want. They just couldn't put structures in the floodplain. This lot here, you've got the wetland mitigation area here, so that will limit, really the usable area for this lot here is this backyard right in through here. And lot one, you've got the mitigation area that kind of comes up through here, but then they've got all this area back in through here where they could sod the landscape.
Okay.
Anyone else? All right, does the petitioner have anything that they would like to add at this time?
Got comments? Come on up. Could you please come up to the mic so?
Yeah, if you'd like to add anything, please come to the mic, give your name and address, please, for the record.
Good evening, I'm Richard Rick. I live at 2084 121st Lane Northwest, Coon Rapids. I've been there since 1993, so I'm very familiar with the area. And a couple of questions I have is regarding the trail.
Okay, hold just a second, sir. You're not the petitioner?
No,
All right, I need to open a public hearing before we have you speak.
I'm sorry.
Does the petitioner wish to add anything? Please come to the microphone.
Hi, Becky Nisley with Northstar Improvements. My husband Gary is there as well, but elects me to speak. Just to answer some questions regarding the proposed or future trail, we've had numerous conversations with Mr. Himmer and actually met with him, was that yesterday, Gary? Or the day before? And we couldn't come to a solution as to what is acceptable because we're not comfortable with the proposed trail going along the north boundary line of the property. Even though there is a utility easement there, we really don't want a future trail system there going east to west, if that makes sense. So we're hoping that we can pay the park dedication fee in lieu of that proposed trail. But we're trying to work with him, something off of Partridge and going, either continue west or going south without going in, I'm going to say east to west on our northerly boundary line.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Harlicker, if they wish to pay the fee, that would be what, $2,000 per lot?
$2,000 per lot.
All right, then at this time, I will open a public hearing in planning case 19-18, the preliminary plat for Pheasant Hollow at 12031 Partridge Street. Sir, now you can speak.
We received a letter probably a month ago from Public Works saying that potentially the trail would be built this year. And in 1996, I'm sure you're well aware of that, the lane was declared as a road. So will the road designation be removed if the easement is used for the trail? Is my question.
Chair Schwartz, at this point, that's uncertain.
Correct.
Okay. And in that letter, they did say that the trail would be asphalt. And I think that Tim had indicated that it would be approximately 10 feet wide as far as the trail itself. But there would be enough room for grass or whatever on either side. There is a set of I'll call it a street light, but it's really just a pole with a light on in back of Roger's garage. Excuse me. And is that going to be replaced or removed?
At this point, it's likely that it would be removed as part of the demolition of the house and the garage.
Okay. And I'm assuming the same thing relative to the septic tank and?
Yep.
Yep, okay. I think that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to the public hearing, come to the microphone. Give your name and address, please.
Darcy Jerstead, address is 2024 121st Lane Northwest. I talked to Mr. Himmer as well as Rick had, and I was told that there's a 30-foot easement for utilities for the bike trail, and that they're looking at having a 10-foot wide trail as well, done by August of this year. I'm questioning now if they can pay $2,000 not to have that trail built. Is that what I understood? Per lot? That's not, okay, then I misunderstood on that.
There's a 20-foot easement in for the sewer, but I think Tim was trying to say that the new easement would be on top of the road as opposed to going through the properties.
Right, and he said that would be the best option, but if we can't come to an agreement, then they gotta talk about how they're gonna put that in there as well. So that's one concern I have, is where that trail's actually gonna be. The second question I've got is concerning, what is it, the case 1918 with the plots for these particular houses. You talked about grading. I know our backyards, when it's really wet, get enough water back there. Are you gonna grade each of the 4 houses higher than, on the north end, higher than they already are? Because at that point, then that causes us harm in our backyard. And so I guess I'm wondering, does the grading only go towards the south end, or will it be completely all raised up for those particular 4?
Chair Schwartz and Commissioners, typically, when they grade size, they grade it so that the water drains away from the existing residences. It's city and engineering policies not to increase runoff onto the adjacent properties. So they may be graded, but they're graded such so the water will flow to the south.
South.
Wow. I can say good luck, because I've got pictures where there's a lot of water back there, but my question then becomes, if you've got that easement, and I don't know if it's 20 or 30 feet, I had 30 after talking to Mr. Himmer, how far then are the proposed houses gonna be from that easement? Because if there's a 20 or 30-foot easement, which would be behind my house, then how far further south would the properties be allowed to be built?
Chair Schwartz, at this point, the buildable area, they could build up to the edge of that 30-foot drainage on utility easement,
Up to?
up to.
So then they would not have a front yard or backyard at that
Well,
point?
the
or-
front yards would be facing the cul-de-sac. On these two lots, they would be side yard.
But they can go right up to that easement?
Correct. That's 30 feet off, these property lines here. Typically, side yard setbacks are 10 feet.
10 feet, so their
10
house would
feet
have to
for
be 10
houses
feet from...
and 5 feet for garages.
5 feet for garages from
Yep.
the easement?
No, not from the easement, from the property lines.
From the
If
property
that,
line.
if that drainage on utility easement was not there, the garages for these houses could be 5 feet from this property line. But since there's that 30-foot wide drainage and utility easement across there, that prohibits any structures going any closer
Any
than
closer
30
than
feet.
that?
Yep.
Okay. And is there I know you said they're going to be slab and no basement. Is there a price point for those houses? Are they going to be relatively equate to what's already currently there, or does that matter at this point?
Judge Schwartz,
that's
that's really
not-
up to the applicant.
That's not something that this commission has any say in.
Okay.
Chair Schwartz, if I might, on the part that,
Yes, sir.
so the recommendation from staff is that the court just, the commission simply adopt a recommendation from us that park dedication be met. That's because city ordinance, frankly, gives the city the choice of whether the applicant is required to pay money or the city will designate land. And so while I can appreciate all the concerns raised about the location of the trail and things like that, and it sounds like there's discussions ongoing, the reason our recommendation is that park dedication be met is so those talks can continue. We don't want to figure that out tonight, and that's the point.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak at the public hearing?
Hi, my name is Greg Robick, and I reside at 12158 Quinn Street, Northwest. And our property butts up against this pond that's in the northern northwest quadrant of that. Is that pond, this new property, is it going to go right up to that pond?
Chair Schwartz, that pond will be, it's right up in this corner here, so that'll be located on Lot 1.
Okay. So their property will butt up against that pond?
Yes.
It will. As far as the trail, and I think it was discussed a little bit, the trail that's going to go along there and this site for this property is going to be, I'm assuming, raised up. It's going to be a lot of fill going in there. And you said that the drainage is going to go away from these existing houses?
Correct.
Because our backyard, over the 30 years we've lived there, the back half of my backyard has sunk. And there's water 3 feet down. So I'm just concerned that this area is going to be built up, and is more water going to come into my property?
Yeah, Chair Schwartz, the development is over in this corner here. The pond that is being referenced here is this little sliver up in this northwest quarter. So it's probably, I don't know, 900 to 1,000 feet away from where these houses are. So the drainage from this area here with the construction area won't impact that far corner of the 40-acre parcel.
Okay. Well, I had other questions with the trail, but that's not about what this is, so. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak at the public hearing? Last call for the public hearing. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Commission, your thoughts.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Casey, or Schmolke, I'm saying.
That's okay. So clearly, there's a lot of questions and concerns about this easement and so forth, and I'm just wondering, and park dedication, I'm just wondering, is there going to be some sort of communication shared with the residents in the area on any outcomes, decisions, or will they be a part of this at all, or is this purely going to be between the current property owner and the city if we approve it the way you're suggesting?
I don't know about the communication side of things, that's not my bailiwick, but as this group knows, this will go to council in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
I expect that this will continue. Or is this a recommendation?
So the residents would have a chance to attend the council meeting, which is what I was trying to get at, so it's not a closed issue tonight for them, they can hear more about it at the city council meeting
Yes.
when it's brought up again.
Yes, my debriefing on the topic was talks are ongoing.
Sure,
We want to keep it as open as possible, that's why we're making the recommendation.
perfect, thank you.
However, I should point out, normally the council does not have an open or a public hearing type meeting where citizens would make statements.
Good reminder.
They would have the chance to contact their council members if they had questions. All right, anyone else in the commission, any other comments, questions?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Geisler.
thank you. You know, I'm looking at this, especially Lot 2, and that wetland buffer zone is basically the corner of the house. The applicant on some of the other supplementary information had provided where those signs would go along, basically the property, along that buffer zone and at the property lines, and then a fourth one off to the west there, at least in one of their example drawings. But that buffer zone coming right up on 2, the second lot just seems like it's gonna be really, really tough compared to the other 3 lots. I just have some concerns about how if we're squeezing too big of a building on that slice of land that really has the least buildable compared to the rest of them. Even though it may meet requirements, it's still pretty light. And, you know, to the concept of a trail perspective, I guess I would ask the question of if lots 1 and 4 were abutting a road instead of that easement, instead of homes on the other side, and the city decided to put a sidewalk in there, would we be having any different conversation if there's just a sidewalk along that road versus the backs of, you know, the 8 lots that are there?
A sidewalk up along 121st?
No, perspectively speaking, if the 8 homes were instead, the road was right on the cul-de-sac, and so lots 1 and 4, their side yards were on a road, would the city run a sidewalk through that perspective conversation?
I'm still not sure.
So along the north boundary where
getting
the
at?
trail's proposed.
We've got the proposed trail easement along this north property line.
Yep, and if that were a road instead of homes, there could be a sidewalk there, and then somebody would have a sidewalk in their side yard, and that would be a regular occurrence in other examples throughout the city,
Yeah, I think
right?
that's accurate, Commissioner Geisler.
Thank you. Okay.
Mr. Harlicker, correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't these rectangles, squares, whatever you want to call them, just approximations of where the house would go? A house could actually be built in a different configuration than what's shown on Lot 2, for example.
Yeah, Chair Schwartz, that's correct. You know, they could design something where it fits further up this way and it's located kind of along this line here instead of pushed back that far. These are just representations of where a house might go.
Okay.
Showing that something could fit on those lots.
Thank you. And Commission, anyone else?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Heikkila.
I'm still a little bit, excuse me, perplexed or don't quite understand this number 4. If you say park dedication requirement prior to release, is that not almost saying that it will be a park dedication and when it's not yet been determined, that's what it will be? If it will be a park dedication fee or if there will be a parkway through there or a
Yeah, Commissioner Heikkila, the proposed language is meant to be open-ended, leaving both options available, whether they pay the $2,000 per lot to meet the park dedication fee or the 20-foot wide trail easement to meet the
I
park
understand
dedication
that, then I
fee.
wonder if that shouldn't be reworded a little bit differently.
I'm open to suggestions.
I'm not the expert on how it would be, how it should be worded, but it seems to me like it's locking us in to the park dedication fee rather than
Yeah, those,
another option.
Commissioner Heikkila, those are really the two options that are available. And my intent is to make sure that the park dedication requirement is met either through one or the other without being specific to either one.
Okay, I'm fine with that as long as that's clearly understood. that
Okay.
That's what it is.
Well, Mr.
Yeah.
Commissioner
Mr. Chair.
Casey?
Didn't you reworded number 4 for us, right? Park dedication requirement be met, period.
No, to be
Well, no,
met
prior to
prior
releasing
to
the plat
releasing
for
the
recording.
plot.
Release for recording, okay. Nothing mentioned there about any $2,000. It just, that will be worked out, and that's the ongoing conversation now.
Correct.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Schmolke?
So is there a chance that there could be a third option? Or is it only those two options?
Those are the two options available, either land or cash,
And, okay,
easement or cash.
so it can't be something else?
No.
Thank you.
Chair Schwartz.
Commissioner Knobloch?
I have a question for Mr. Harlicker. This 40-acre area, is this for insurance purposes considered a floodplain?
The majority of this property is considered floodplain.
Okay.
Whether they'll have to get flood insurance, I'm not sure how that will work out.
My follow-up question is, everything, of course, meets, the cul-de-sac meets fire and police access, garbage, the normal requirements for access to this site?
Correct, it's a standard size cul-de-sac.
All right. Thank you.
Anyone else? Commissioner Geisler?
Mr. Harley, could you restate the modification you'd like for item 3 again for us, just to clarify what's being struck?
The existing garage and house be removed prior to the issuance of any building permits.
So just striking driveway from Partridge Street from the, as listed in the action item?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, one more question for Mr. Harlicker. Is there any changes or modifications required for the entrance into this cul-de-sac on Osage? We haven't talked about anything regarding that entrance in there, so does anything change there?
On Osage
On
up here?
Osage, yeah, yep,
No, that'll stay,
still
it'll tie
stays.
right into the existing road.
okay, great, thank you.
Mr. Hardiker, would there be a stop sign or anything there coming out of that Osage cul-de-sac where it meets 121st Lane there?
At this point, I don't think that decision has been made yet. It certainly is an option.
Okay. No, that won't be
It's
much
not-
traffic.
It's not part of this plat.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Anyone else? Do we have anyone ready to make a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'll move approval of planning case, where'd it go? 19-18, preliminary plat Pheasant Hollow at 21031 Partridge Street, with the following items. Compliance with Title 11, all engineering comments be addressed as described in the attached memo dated February 4th, 2020. The existing garage and house be removed prior to the issuance of any building permits. The park dedication requirement be met. One street tree per lot required, or one street tree is required per lot. The trees must be a minimum caliper of 2.5 inches. A developer's agreement be entered between the city and the developer.
Mr. Chair, on number 4, Commissioner Geisler, there was something at the end, park dedication requirement be met prior to being released for recording.
Mr. Chair, I would accept a friendly amendment to that statement.
All right.
And I would second that motion.
We have a motion by Geisler, a second by Casey. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. This is a recommendation by the Planning Commission and will be heard by the City Council at their March 4th meeting. Thank you. All right, next we have consider adoption of the 2020 Rules of Order, Internal Procedures and Policies, and Code of Ethics for the Planning Commission. Mr. Harlicker, anything you'd like to add?
Commissioners and Chair Schwartz, this is part of our administrative procedure that we do every year. And staff is recommending that the commission adopt, excuse me, the 2020 Ethics, Rules of Order, and Internal Procedures and Policies, the 3 documents. There was no changes made from last year.
Thank you. Commission, any questions or comments? You willing to make a motion?
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Casey?
I move that that we consider the adoption of the 2020 Rules of Order, Internal Procedures and Policies, and Code of Ethics as described in our basic administrative packet here.
I'll second it.
Motion by Casey, second by Knobloch. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And they are approved. Other business, Mr. Harlicker.
It's being winter and 20 below zero yesterday or last night. Not a whole lot going on. I know we did get permits for the Target store up off of 124th. They'll be doing some interior remodel and rebranding of the exterior of the building. We did get a permit for that. We did get the permit for Metro Storage. That's the indoor self-storage facility on 124th across Main Street from Menards. So they'll be breaking ground this spring. Those are the 2 big ones that we've got in line right now.
And next month's meeting,
Next month's meeting will be canceled. We did not receive any applications.
all right. So it sounds like everyone has a month's vacation. Commission, anyone have anything under other business?
I drove by the new building coming up in front of the bank. It looks really nice, and it looks like it's gonna be a good addition to the city.
And they're coming right along on the apartment building up on Springbrook. All right, if no one has anything else, motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion by Schmolke, second by Geisler, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Meeting's adjourned.